Badmus, or whatever you call yourself. You see this boy matter, eh? If nobody escort you reach that prison gate, me personally, I go escort you, you go enter prison. For this matter, you go enter prison. It's enough now. Why should we taking pressure from the government? Then all these hoodlums, because I get one godfather where they support you now. Don't take power over yourself. See, let me tell you, the police that follow you to go and arrest those boys, you and your gang leaders, not only this man or declare wanted though, those boys, they need to bring them to justice. Because this man alone cannot do the work. If not with the help of this tout where they with them, who is Badmus compared to that guy? Chef they stage the one-on-one if he defeat the guy. And the other hands, message to the IG, the IGP department, the IG of police. Where they say, una they always they won't make they use una for all this kind of dirty job. Somebody when no come stage or come write statement, he not write anything. He just call bring police. Then the same police carry these people. After this kind of big thing, police will not get conscience to say no, this kind of thing. Go and treat this man first. I've seen a case like that. Nobody has the right to hold somebody, even if he's a criminal. You beat that person. This is a jungle justice. Okay, it isn't until the person died in the process of beating, that be jungle justice. What they did to this guy is jungle justice. See, if police know what is good for them, they better handle this case with sense. Or else, we'll start dragging the IG of police into this issue. We will drag the commissioner of police of Delta State or Bayelsa, whoever it is, we will drag them to this issue. What is the meaning of all this rubbish? When all this nonsense go stop for this country, when our police go get sense, when their head go correct, may they put this in order. Somebody that be beaten with this kind of injury, spinal cord injury, police still put under their detention. Ask the family to go and bring money. After I want die, now they call the family. Why they even carry the man come off for there? They should have left that guy there. You see this guy matter, eh? I will dig and follow up this issue until we see that this guy, he enter prison. Not only him, those civil servants that followed him, they need to bring them to justice. We need the name of those civil servants. The police, the IPO, when he take barrel, detain person where they don't beat, he detain her. Say because now this Batman, now they control police now. That police will bring her to justice. The commissioner of police or the IG of police will bring that police out. He go follow this issue so that other police go learn from this one. That's just what I have to say for now. I'm coming back for this issue. I go follow him up.
The statement under analysis reflects a deep and emotionally charged reaction to an incident perceived as abuse of power, unlawful violence, and institutional failure. From the tone alone, it is clear that the speaker is not merely expressing anger but articulating a broader frustration with patterns that have become familiar in public discourse, especially in societies where trust between citizens and law enforcement is fragile. The language used is raw, unscripted, and direct, which gives it authenticity but also reveals how emotional intensity can blur clarity. In examining this statement critically and objectively, it is important to move beyond the heat of the moment and focus on the underlying issues being raised, namely accountability, rule of law, police conduct, and the dangerous normalization of extrajudicial practices often referred to as jungle justice. These concerns are not isolated, and they resonate with ongoing debates about security governance, civil rights, and institutional reform. If you find this kind of analysis valuable, this is a good moment to gently remind you to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments, because public conversation is part of how awareness grows. At the core of the statement is an accusation that an individual, described in confrontational terms, should be held legally accountable for actions that allegedly led to severe physical harm. The speaker repeatedly emphasizes prison as the appropriate outcome, which indicates a belief that lawful punishment, rather than mob retaliation, should be the endpoint. Ironically, this call for legal consequences is expressed alongside condemnation of unlawful violence, highlighting a contradiction that is worth examining. On one hand, the speaker rejects jungle justice, explicitly naming it as unacceptable. On the other hand, the tone suggests personal involvement and determination to pursue the matter relentlessly, which reflects how citizens often feel compelled to step into advocacy roles when they perceive institutions as ineffective. This duality is important because it illustrates a wider social phenomenon. When formal systems are mistrusted, individuals resort to public pressure and personal commitment to force accountability. The repeated references to police behavior reveal a serious allegation of institutional complicity or negligence. The statement suggests that law enforcement officers not only failed to prevent violence but may have enabled it, ignored it, or acted without due regard for human dignity. From an analytical standpoint, this raises questions about operational procedures, training, oversight mechanisms, and ethical standards within policing structures. It is essential to distinguish between individual misconduct and systemic failure. While it is easy to direct anger at an entire institution, objective analysis requires recognizing that institutions are composed of individuals operating within frameworks that may incentivize or discourage certain behaviors. When a speaker asks rhetorically whether the police will get sense or when their heads will correct, it signals despair rather than a literal insult, pointing to perceived stagnation in reform efforts. The mention of pressure from government and the concept of godfatherism introduces a political dimension. Godfatherism, in political science terms, refers to informal networks of influence where power is exercised behind the scenes, often undermining formal democratic processes. By invoking this idea, the speaker implies that the incident is not merely a criminal matter but part of a broader web of influence and protection. This perception, whether accurate or not, is significant because public belief in elite immunity can erode confidence in justice systems. When citizens believe that some individuals are untouchable due to connections, compliance with the law weakens, and social cohesion suffers. This is why transparency and impartial investigations are crucial, not just for justice in a single case, but for maintaining institutional legitimacy. Another critical element of the statement is the discussion of detention practices and alleged demands for money. Claims that injured individuals are detained and families are asked to bring money raise serious human rights concerns. From a legal perspective, detention should follow clear procedures, respect due process, and prioritize medical attention when injuries are involved. Any deviation from these standards undermines both domestic law and international human rights principles. Objectively speaking, allegations are not proof, but they warrant independent investigation. A responsible system does not dismiss such claims outright, nor does it accept them uncritically. It examines evidence, testimonies, and records to establish facts. This balance is often missing in emotionally charged public debates, which is why analytical content like this matters. The statement also highlights the danger of normalizing violence as a response to alleged wrongdoing. By explicitly naming jungle justice and describing its consequences, including death, the speaker underscores the irreversible harm caused when due process is abandoned. Jungle justice thrives in environments where formal justice is slow, inaccessible, or perceived as biased. However, it creates a cycle of violence that ultimately harms innocent people and erodes moral boundaries. From a sociological perspective, communities that tolerate or justify such practices often do so out of fear or frustration, not malice. Understanding this does not mean excusing it. Rather, it helps policymakers and civil society actors design interventions that address root causes instead of symptoms. The call to involve high-ranking officials such as the Inspector General of Police and commissioners reflects an understanding of hierarchical accountability. In theory, senior leadership is responsible for setting standards, enforcing discipline, and ensuring compliance throughout the ranks. Public pressure directed at leadership can be an effective catalyst for reform, but only if it is accompanied by credible evidence and sustained civic engagement. Threats to drag officials into the issue should be interpreted as demands for oversight, not personal vendettas. In democratic systems, oversight can take many forms, including judicial review, legislative inquiries, and independent commissions. When citizens vocalize these demands, it signals engagement rather than apathy. The emotional intensity of the statement should not distract from its analytical value as a social document. It captures how ordinary people experience state power at the street level. For many, interactions with law enforcement are not abstract policy discussions but lived realities that involve fear, vulnerability, and uncertainty. When someone describes injuries, detention, and lack of compassion, it reflects a perceived breakdown in the social contract. According to political theory, the legitimacy of the state rests on its monopoly on the use of force being exercised lawfully and ethically. When that monopoly is abused or seen as abusive, legitimacy erodes, and resistance, whether verbal or physical, becomes more likely. It is also worth noting the role of media and public discourse in shaping outcomes. Statements like this gain traction because they resonate with shared experiences and circulate rapidly, especially online. While this visibility can drive accountability, it can also lead to misinformation if not handled carefully. Responsible content creation, including voiceover analysis like this, plays a role in contextualizing claims, separating facts from allegations, and encouraging constructive dialogue. If you're watching or listening and you care about these issues, this is a good point to pause, subscribe, and share the video, because informed discussion needs platforms to survive. From a legal standpoint, the insistence that even a criminal has rights is a crucial point embedded in the statement. This aligns with fundamental principles of justice, presumption of innocence, proportionality, and humane treatment. Beating a suspect is not only unlawful but counterproductive, as it compromises evidence, invites legal challenges, and damages public trust. Modern policing standards emphasize investigation, intelligence gathering, and community cooperation over brute force. When these standards are violated, it reflects either inadequate training, poor supervision, or a culture that tolerates misconduct. Addressing any of these requires sustained institutional commitment, not reactive measures after public outrage. The speakers promise to follow up the issue. Dig and Dig reflects a broader trend of citizen activism. In the digital age, individuals increasingly document, track, and amplify cases that might otherwise fade away. This persistence can be positive, but it also places emotional and sometimes physical burdens on individuals who take on roles traditionally assigned to institutions. Ideally, citizens should not have to personally chase justice. Systems should function predictably and fairly. When they do not, activism fills the gap, but it is not a sustainable substitute for reform. Another important analytical angle is the collective framing of responsibility. The statement does not target a single officer or actor alone but refers to groups, departments, and hierarchies. This collective framing reflects a belief that wrongdoing is not isolated. Whether or not that belief is accurate in this specific case, it speaks to perceptions of systemic issues. Researchers studying police reform often emphasize the importance of organizational culture. If misconduct is routinely ignored or informally justified, it becomes normalized. Changing such cultures requires leadership, accountability mechanisms, and incentives aligned with ethical behavior. The rhetorical questions scattered throughout the statement serve a purpose beyond expression of anger. They invite listeners to reflect on broader societal conditions. Questions like when would this stop, or when will order be restored, are not demands for immediate answers but expressions of fatigue. Fatigue is a powerful political emotion. It can lead to disengagement, but it can also catalyze reform movements. The direction it takes depends on whether institutions respond constructively or defensively. In discussing the involvement of civil servants and the demand for their identification, the statement touches on transparency. Naming individuals involved in alleged misconduct is a sensitive issue. On one hand, anonymity can protect wrongdoing, on the other, premature naming can endanger innocent people and violate due process. Best practice lies in independent investigation bodies that can identify responsibility without exposing individuals to mob judgment. This balance is difficult to achieve, especially in polarized environments, but it is essential for justice to be both fair and seen as fair. The mention of medical neglect following injuries is particularly troubling from a human rights perspective. International standards require that detainees receive prompt medical attention. Failure to do so can amount to cruel or inhuman treatment. Even allegations of such neglect should trigger internal reviews and external oversight. When families are reportedly asked to provide money before care is given, it raises ethical and legal red flags that go beyond individual misconduct and point to systemic corruption or resource failures. As this analysis continues, it is important to emphasize that objectivity does not mean emotional detachment.